Welcome back to the deep dive. And if I'm being completely honest, today we are tackling a topic that, for a lot of you, probably brings up a feeling of dread.
Oh, yeah.
It's a topic that just comes with fear, anxiety, a whole lot of avoidance, and frankly, I think most of us secretly hate it.
You're talking about budgeting.
I am.
Yeah.
We're talking about budgeting. And if you are someone who feels that, that familiar knot of guilt every time you try to track your spending or you avoid checking your bank balance because it gives you that low-grade stress headache, or if you have genuinely tried 1,000 budgeting systems, the envelopes, the spreadsheets, the apps, and none of them stick, then this deep dive is exactly for you. Our mission today is simple. We are going to dive into the core, the psychological flaws of traditional budgeting systems.
Right.
And then show you a money system, the anti-budget, that actually fits your brain and your lifestyle, rather than trying to force you into some restrictive, impossible box.
And I am so thrilled to be diving into this material with you, especially because, this whole thing, for me, it comes from a place of deep personal frustration. My background is in behavioral finance, but more importantly, I started as someone who was, actively terrible at managing money.
Right.
I spent years observing how people interact with their money, and more importantly, why these highly prescribed, really rigid systems almost universally fail. And I want to set the stage right now for every single person listening.
Okay.
If you have failed at budgeting repeatedly, it is not because you are irresponsible. It is not because you are lazy or, lack intelligence. The core truth we have to internalize is that traditional budgeting is fundamentally built on restriction.
Restriction.
Yes, and unrealistic expectations of willpower. And restriction psychologically is it's inherently unsustainable long-term. It always leads to rebellion.
That distinction, restriction versus sustainability,
Right.
that feels like the ultimate validation that people need to hear.
Yeah.
It's so powerful to realize, okay, you're not the problem, the system is.
That's it.
And I think that realization frees people up to say, okay, maybe I don't need to be perfect. Maybe I just need something simple that recognizes I'm human. You shared a profound thought that came from, you said, the deep shame of your early financial days. And I think it summarizes our entire mission perfectly.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a time when I was just surrounded by unopened bills and feeling totally overwhelmed and ashamed about my bank balance. And if I could rewind time and talk to my younger self, I would say, you don't need more discipline. You need a system that loves you back.
A system that loves you back. Wow.
That is the goal of the anti-budget we are designing today. We are proving that you can have a budget that works even if you are messy, inconsistent, you hate spreadsheets, and you actively avoid thinking about money. We're leveraging human nature, not fighting it.
So let's start by decoding that core issue, the why. Why does the word budget immediately just conjure up these uncomfortable, even visceral emotions for so many of us?
It's because budgeting is rarely taught neutrally. It's steeped in emotional baggage. When people sit down to budget, they aren't just looking at columns of numbers. They are bringing up decades of internalized emotional history. They think about sacrifice, they think about deprivation, and they think about the fear of not having enough, which is often a fear learned long ago back in childhood.
I think that deep link to childhood, that's crucial. If money was often a source of stress or, shouting or scarcity for your parents, or if you constantly heard people talking about spending anxiety or the panic around wasting money, that internalizes a deep existential fear of getting it wrong when it comes to money as an adult.
That's precisely right. We weren't taught practical budgeting skills or compound interest at the dinner table. We were taught fear skills around money.
Fear skills, yeah.
We learned that money is scary, it's complicated, and that if you mess up, you are irresponsible. So when we finally sit down as adults, often after, a financial crisis or some moment of panic, the process becomes entirely emotional. We're dealing with trauma and shame, not practical addition and subtraction.
And what does the dominant traditional system demand of this person who's already in this emotionally fragile state?
It demands total, perfect, unflinching discipline.
Of course it does.
Traditional systems demand that you meticulously track every single dollar, what's often called a zero-based budget, where you give every dollar a specific job. You have to categorize every single purchase into these overly specific buckets.
Like $3.50 for the exact latte.
Exactly. $19.99 for that very specific streaming service, $45 for dog food, and on and on and on. And you're expected to stick rigidly to limits that were probably, let's be honest, pulled out of thin air and unrealistic to begin with.
Wait, let's pause there for a second. We mentioned the term zero-based budget. For those who tried it and hated it, can you quickly define what that is and why it creates the very fatigue we're discussing?
Of course. So a zero-based budget means your income minus your expenses should equal zero. Every single dollar has to be accounted for in a category. Logically, it's sound, right? It makes sure no money is forgotten.
Sure, on paper.
But psychologically, it's a killer. It requires constant, detailed monitoring. So if you spend, say, $2 extra on milk, you have to go into the system and manually move $2 from, let's say, your clothing category to your grocery category.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
It demands that you are a financial accountant for your own life every single day.
Yeah.
That level of micromanagement is the foundation of tracking fatigue.
And that's the fundamental disconnect, isn't it? That system is built on the assumption that you are a rational economic actor who operates on logic 100% of the time.
Right, completely free of spontaneous urges or human error or stress-induced spending.
Which, of course, no real human brain does.
No. It's a system designed for a spreadsheet, not for a messy, emotional human life. It fails because it requires too much, too soon, and it demands perfection from a person who probably feels like they're already failing or just naturally spontaneous.
Yeah.
If budgeting doesn't align with your personality, your busy schedule, or that complicated emotional relationship you already have with money, it's doomed. The second you miss a category or overspend on groceries or just forget to log one purchase, the entire system collapses. The shame sets in.
And that shame instantly leads to total avoidance.
Exactly. And the cycle of failure just repeats it.
Okay, we need to pull the emergency brake on that cycle. We need a fresh start and I think a redefinition of budgeting, the way it should have been defined all along. So, stripped of all the painful baggage, what is a budget, truly?
At its core, a budget is merely a plan for your money. That is all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. We have to ruthlessly strip away all the punitive baggage that comes with the word. It is not a punishment, it is not a restriction, it is not a diet, and it is certainly not a moral test of your discipline or your character. It is simply a map showing where your resources are going.
I really like that framing of the plan.
Yeah.
It instantly shifts the focus from restriction, what can I do, to direction. What do I want this money to achieve?
Precisely. The goal shifts fundamentally from wondering, where did all my money disappear to last week, to deciding proactively, what should this dollar do next? You become the active, empowered decision maker, giving every single dollar a clear job before the month starts.
Instead of the frantic detective trying to figure out where it all went.
Exactly. The detective trying to trace where the money disappeared 2 weeks later when the balance is low. This shift from reactionary detective to proactive architect is everything.
And what's amazing about this simple redefinition is it completely removes the need for complexity. It sounds like you're saying you don't need fancy spreadsheets or advanced math skills. You just need a simple, reliable structure.
Simplicity is the single greatest predictor of financial sustainability. If the system is too complicated, if it requires constant attention and mental bandwidth, you absolutely will not stick to it when life inevitably gets busy or stressful. We need to distinguish clearly between the two approaches, traditional and what I'd call modern budgeting.
Okay.
Traditional budgeting, as we've discussed, is built around discipline and tracking. It demands you bend your life to fit the spreadsheet, the categorization rules, and the rigid expectations. It's punishing.
And the modern approach, the one that works.
That approach is built around automation and behavioral science. It is built around simplicity, recognizing that we are wired for patterns, not perfection. It uses psychology and our emotional needs, the opposite of pressure and complexity.
So you're leaning into our own nature.
We are leaning into human laziness, not fighting it. If we can automate the hard parts and simplify the tracking down to 3 simple buckets, we remove the pressure and the complexity that causes 90% of the failures we've all experienced.
Okay, let's get granular now. If someone is nodding along thinking about the 4 or 5 times they tried a zero-based budget or the envelope system and just gave up, let's explain exactly why those systems were basically designed to fail them. We need to hammer home that these failures are systemic, not personal.
Yes. This section is the core of the validation. These 10 points are universal flaws baked right into the system, not flaws in the person trying to use them. If you recognize yourself in this list, it's proof that the tool was the problem, not you.
Okay, what's reason 1?
Reason 1, Too many categories. This is the #1 complexity killer. If your budget software forces you into 20 separate line items, 35 for coffee, 42 for personal care, 8 for streaming service, Z, it immediately leads to crushing tracking fatigue and eventual inaction. When you face that level of complexity, your brain doesn't engage, it just shuts down. We are looking for high-level management, not micromanagement that feels like a part-time job.
And when burnout hits on the categories, the whole system just gets tossed out.
Exactly. Which brings us to reason 2. Overly strict rules. This is the restriction paradox in action. The no-fun spending approach, or the draconian attempt to cut all discretionary spending, is a psychological disaster.
It's a financial crash diet.
It is, and it fosters intense psychological rebellion, not discipline. Your brain views total deprivation as an existential threat to its happiness. If you deprive yourself entirely of small joys, your subconscious will eventually snap and you'll binge spend $300 on something ridiculous, blowing up the entire system.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's number 3?
Reason 3. Unrealistic expectations for habit transformation. People often approach budgeting thinking they should transform decades of ingrained money habits in 30 days. They spend a weekend making a perfect spreadsheet, expect to be a money master by the end of the month, and when they inevitably slip up in week 2, because human behavior doesn't change instantly, they feel like a complete failure.
They set an impossible expectation.
Impossible. It leads directly to abandonment. Habit transformation requires patience and small, consistent wins, not some huge, sweeping behavioral change overnight.
And life is certainly not static, which is where the rigidity of traditional budgets often breaks.
That's reason 4, no flexibility. Traditional budgets assume every month is identical. Same rent, same bills, same grocery spend. But life throws curveballs, a sudden trip home, a minor medical bill, a necessary car repair.
Or just needing to buy winter clothes.
Right. And when that rigid budget doesn't accommodate the reality of an evolving life, you break the budget, feel guilty that you couldn't stick to the plan, and you abandon the entire practice out of frustration. The budget needs to be a malleable map, not a rigid cage.
Okay, what's next?
Reason 5, no emotional support. This is huge. As we discussed, people spend emotionally, not logically. When you are stressed, you seek comfort. When you are bored, you seek stimulation.
When you're lonely, you seek connection.
Exactly. Traditional budgets ignore this fundamental human truth and just shame the symptom, the purchase, rather than addressing the root cause, which is the emotional need. A budget that ignores your emotional reality will always lose the battle to your emotions.
And that leads directly to the most destructive element.
Reason 6, shame. This is perhaps the most toxic element that makes people give up forever. When you inevitably slip up, which you will because you're human, the traditional system is designed to make you feel like a moral failure.
And that feeling is so uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable that it instantly leads to avoidance. Avoiding checking the accounts, avoiding logging purchases, avoiding thinking about money altogether. And avoidance, sadly, guarantees you will fall further and further behind.
And there's no positive reinforcement.
None. That's reason 7. No reward system built in. Staring at a meticulously tracked spreadsheet where every single line is a reminder of restriction and sacrifice is incredibly unmotivating. Where's the joy in that?
There isn't any.
Without an element of protected reward built into the system, a fun bucket, long-term adherence is psychologically impossible. We need short-term rewards to power long-term goals.
What's number 8?
Reason 8, tracking fatigue. This circles back to complexity. Daily, minute-by-minute tracking of expenses, checking every receipt, logging every transaction is an exhausting, tedious chore that simply cannot be maintained forever. Most people quit by day 45 because the administrative overhead of their personal finances just exceeds their tolerance for tedious tasks.
Okay, we're almost there. Number
Reason 9, identity mismatch. We often assume everyone should manage money the same way, but some personalities are naturally highly detailed, analytical, and they thrive on complexity, the spreadsheet personality. But many people, creative types, spontaneous individuals, busy entrepreneurs, they find strict, detailed systems completely counter to their natural rhythms.
So they feel like they're bad with money.
But they're not. The system simply doesn't match their identity. And finally, reason 10, lack of automation. If your budget relies solely on your imperfect willpower and memory to consistently move money and pay bills, it guarantees loss. Willpower is a finite resource.
It runs out.
It depletes throughout the day, especially when you're tired or stressed. Automation, on the other hand, is tireless, emotionally neutral, and works 247. Relying on willpower alone is setting yourself up for guaranteed failure.
Wow, that list is so incredibly validating. It proves that the failure wasn't a personal flaw of being bad with money, but a systemic failure of a system built on these unsustainable, unrealistic machine-like ideals.
Exactly. We are ditching that old punitive approach that demands you become a robot. We are building the opposite. A budget that is flexible, forgiving, human, and based on behavioral science, not unsustainable discipline.
Okay, it's time to introduce the solution that works, even if you hate structure, hate tracking, and hate spreadsheets. The anti-budget. It sounds like the system succeeds because it embraces simplicity and minimal effort.
It does. The anti-budget succeeds precisely because it demands minimal discipline and minimal tracking. Its core principle is radical simplicity. We move from 20 or more agonizing categories down to just 3. The only 3 categories your brain needs to make sound financial decisions.
Only 3. It seems almost too simple. So the feeling of deprivation actually uses up mental energy that could be better spent making good choices elsewhere.
Precisely. We're talking about ego depletion. Willpower is a limited resource. Every time you have to manually fight the urge to spend or force yourself to log a purchase, you deplete your ego, your cognitive resources.
So by the end of the day,
By the end of a long, stressful workday, your capacity for financial discipline is zero. The anti-budget removes 90% of those daily negotiations. You don't have to decide if you can afford that purchase. You just look at the fun account. The decision is already made.
which is why the fun bucket isn't just a luxury, it's a necessary psychological safety valve that prevents that ego depletion.
It is absolutely essential. The Fun Bucket guarantees pleasure, freedom, and enjoyment of life right now. By proactively allocating, say, 30% to protected spending, you're preemptively satisfying that need for joy and freedom.
So when an urge hits,
You can check your Fun Bucket balance and spend guilt-free instead of feeling like you're cheating the system or fighting some moral battle. That guilt-free spending is a psychological necessity.
and the elimination of shame is equally powerful in keeping the system running.
It removes the pressure for perfection. When you inevitably overspend on groceries one month, because again, you are human, you don't feel ashamed and abandon the entire system. You simply look at the buckets, you adjust the allocation, maybe pull a little from next month's Fun Bucket or pause a contribution to goals, and you move on.
No moral punishment.
Just a simple, immediate adjustment. Budgets built on guilt are designed to collapse. Budgets built on psychology, behavior, and emotional needs are built to last.
It's the human approach to finance. It recognizes that we have needs beyond just paying bills, and those needs must be honored within the structure.
We must honor our emotional needs within the financial structure. If a system doesn't make room for joy, it's not a sustainable system for a joyful life. That is the core lesson of behavioral finance.
Okay, for the listener who is ready to implement this anti-budget, let's walk through the practical steps to set up their 3 buckets based on their current income. Let's focus on how to handle the inevitable variability of real life.
The implementation is deliberately straightforward. It's designed to be done in less than an hour.
Okay, step 1.
Step 1, fixed essentials. Start with the bills that are exactly the same every single month. Pull up your bank statements and identify rent or mortgage, car payment, insurance premiums, fixed subscriptions, and minimum debt payments. These are non-negotiable and easy to calculate. Sum these up to establish your absolute baseline cost of survival.
This step provides immediate non-emotional clarity on the minimal cost of living.
It does. Step 2, flexible essentials. Now, these are the essential costs that fluctuate, the variable life expenses. This includes gas, household supplies, and the biggest variable of all, groceries. These need to be estimated, and this is where most people get tripped up because they try to estimate perfectly.
Right, the perfectionism trap.
We need a simple, safe estimation method.
So what method do you recommend for those variable estimates to ensure safety without demanding weeks of tracking receipts?
I recommend what I call the high watermark method. Pull up the last 6 months of your bank statements and find the highest spending month for each flexible category, like groceries. Use that highest number as your estimate.
So if you spent $600 one month and $450 the next, you budget for $600.
Budget $600 for the grocery essential bucket. This ensures you never run out of money in that category. And if you underspend, the surplus simply rolls over or can be moved to goals. Estimates are okay, but safe, high side estimates are better.
That's smart. It builds a psychological buffer right into the system. So
Correct.
now we have the total amount needed for essential spending, both fixed and flexible.
Correct. Step 3, allocate goals. Now, choose 1 or 2 financial goals to focus on right now. This is a critical point. Fight the urge to attempt too many goals at once. Focus creates exponential power.
So emergency fund first, or paying down debt.
Exactly. Is it building the emergency fund first? Is it aggressively paying down the high-interest credit card? Is it maxing out your 401k? Allocate your chosen percentage or dollar amount towards those prioritized goals only. If you have 20% for goals, and that's $1,000, you might put $600 toward the emergency fund and $400 toward the debt.
Prioritization is the key to avoiding that overwhelm that causes goal fatigue.
Absolutely. Step 4, create the fun bucket. Now define this category and allocate your remaining income. And we recommend starting at 30% if you can. Where does life happen for you? This includes dining out, entertainment, streaming, clothing, hobbies, all the small joys. This is the crucial allocation that removes the guilt from everyday spending because you are spending money that has already been designated for enjoyment.
By the end of these 4 steps, you have clear monetary totals for your 3 buckets. all derived from your total income without ever having to track a single coffee receipt.
Exactly. It's a holistic, high-level, actionable view. You are focusing on the total picture and the movement of large chunks of money, not the tiny, demoralizing details. This simplicity makes the system sustainable.
We have to address a specific complex challenge that trips up a massive segment of the population: inconsistent income. If you're a freelancer, a gig worker, someone working on commission, how do you stabilize your money with the anti-budget when your monthly income can swing wildly?
Budgeting for inconsistent income requires creating artificial stability because the natural rhythm of your job lacks it entirely. You cannot stick to a 5-2 new 330 model if you don't know what 100% is.
Right.
You need to detach your daily spending habits from your variable income flow. There are 3 essential stabilization steps.
Okay, what's the first one?
Step 1, create a baseline budget. This is the first action. Calculate the bare minimum required for survival, the fixed essentials, and a conservative estimate for flexible essentials. This number, say it's $3,500, that is your absolute floor. You need to know this number so you know what the lowest income month needs to cover.
Okay, so you have your target.
Step 2, build a holdover buffer. This is vital for mental and financial sanity. Establish a separate bank account cushion, call it the income smoothing account, designed to cover the gap during slow months. This account receives extra funds from high income months. The goal is to build this buffer until it holds 1.5 to 2 months worth of your baseline.
That gives you immense breathing room. It acts like a shock absorber for that volatility.
Precisely. It allows you to feel secure even when a contract ends unexpectedly. And step 3, pay yourself a fixed salary. This is the most powerful behavioral technique. Whatever your total earnings are in a high-income period, you only transfer the same consistent amount equivalent to your average monthly needs into your main checking account on the first of the month.
And the rest stays in the buffer account.
The rest of the money stays in that holdover buffer account.
So if you earn $6,000 in a great month, but your average needs are $4,500, you only move $4,500 into your active buckets, leaving $1,500 in the buffer.
That is exactly right. Your day-to-day spending and budgeting are based on a stable, predictable income of $4,500, smoothing out the peaks and valleys. When a slow month hits and you only earn $2,000, you pull the remaining $2,500 from the buffer to make up your $4,500 fixed salary.
You're essentially acting as your own reliable, consistent payroll department, shielding your lifestyle from the market's chaos.
Yes. You create stability out of instability. This is the core skill for variable income earners. You focus on the average, not the volatility.
And what about the fun bucket when the income is fluctuating? How do you manage that without triggering the restriction paradox during slow months?
The fun bucket has to remain consciously flexible. In high months, you can allocate more to fun. Maybe you do a 502-525 split and send the extra 5% fun money to a big treat sinking fund.
And in the low months?
In low months, you may have to shrink the fun allocation down to the absolute bare minimum, say 10%. But the key is that the fun bucket must never be zero. If you cut joy entirely, you trigger the restriction paradox, and you risk a large, rebellious, guilt-inducing impulse spend later on that destroys your progress. Always keep at least a small, protected spending allowance for joy.
We've established repeatedly that relying on our own discipline guarantees failure. This brings us to the game changer for the anti-budget: automation. How do we take this 3-bucket system and put it on autopilot?
Automation is your financial bodyguard. It protects you from the 3 biggest budget killers: inconsistency, forgetfulness, and stress. If you believe you are not disciplined enough to budget, that is fine, because automation does the heavy, consistent, repeatable lifting for you. We focus on 5 core automations.
Okay, number 1.
Automation 1, automatic bill payments. All your fixed expenses, rent, mortgage, insurance, internet, cell phone, must be automated to pull from your designated essentials account. This protects you from devastating late fees, protects your credit score, and, most importantly, significantly reduces the mental load of remembering dozens of payment dates.
Set it and forget it.
Exactly. Automation 2, automatic goals and savings transfers. Set up a small, consistent amount to automatically transfer into your goals bucket, whether that's an emergency fund or a retirement account, every single time you get paid. The key psychological trick here is that you never even see the money in your primary checking account, so you don't miss it.
So even starting small is okay.
Starting with even $5 or $10 per paycheck is fine. The mere habit of automatically saving is exponentially more important than the initial size of the amount. The habit builds the momentum.
And for debt.
Automation 3, automatic debt payments. Automate the minimum payment, of course, but if you're aggressively paying down debt using the goals allocation, you must automate the extra payment as well. When progress is automatic, you can't emotionally negotiate yourself out of it when you feel tired or stressed, saying, oh, I'll pay the extra next month. It just happens.
That is brilliant. You leverage automation to enforce your best, most logical intentions, protecting them from your tired, emotional self.
It's protective psychology in action. Automation 4, automatic fun bucket transfers. This is the one people often miss. Structure your fun money. On payday, immediately transfer your allocated fun money into its own separate account.
Why is that so important?
Because if fun money isn't automated and separated, people overspend by rationalizing, I deserve this, whenever they see a surplus in their main checking account. Automating a fixed amount to your fun bucket actually helps you spend less overall because the limit is fixed, psychologically safe, and the spending is entirely guilt-free.
Structured fun leads to less emotional overspending. That is a massive counterintuitive win.
It's the ultimate defense against the restriction paradox. And automation 5, separate accounts for separate buckets. You need physical separation for mental clarity. Dedicate distinct bank accounts for essentials, goals, and fun.
A lot of banks let you do that now with pots or vaults.
An excellent way to maintain the separation. When the money is physically separated, you eliminate confusion and prevent funds from mixing. If you look at your fun account balance, you know exactly how much you have for joy without accidentally dipping into the rent money. The separation is the engine of the anti-budget system.
With those 5 automations running, the system transitions from something you manually manage with constant effort to something that runs itself, requiring only a few minutes of weekly review. Even with the best system and perfect automation, emotional spending is a massive reality. When the pressure hits, when we're stressed or bored or anxious, the logic brain often goes offline, and we seek that dopamine rush of a purchase. How do we manage this gently and without triggering the shame spiral?
We have to first fundamentally change the way we view emotional spending. It is not an act of immaturity or a moral failing. It is the brain attempting to soothe discomfort by seeking a rapid dopamine hit or a temporary distraction.
So the coping mechanism.
It's an emotional regulation problem, not a financial problem. If we treat it that way, we can solve it. We can identify 5 common emotional triggers.
Okay.
Trigger 1, stress. You buy something for a quick hit of relief to escape anxiety. Trigger 2, boredom or low energy. Shopping provides stimulation when you feel stagnant. You aren't actually looking for the item, you're looking for the novelty.
And the distraction.
Trigger 3, loneliness or lack of connection. Buying something can give a temporary sense of connection, or it can be a substitute for the effort required to make real human connection.
That's so relatable. The loneliness trigger often manifests in buying gifts for yourself or signing up for too many subscriptions.
Precisely. Trigger 4, identity aspiration. Purchasing specific items, high-end workout gear, expensive office supplies makes you feel like the aspirational, successful version of yourself. And trigger 5, childish scarcity or healing. Spending freely feels like healing a younger, deprived self who felt they never had enough.
It's a way of saying, I am an adult now, and I can have what I want.
Exactly. Recognizing that these are attempts at emotional regulation changes the entire approach. You're not trying to stop spending, you're trying to find a healthier, non-financial regulation method. We shift from self-punishment to self-compassion and curiosity.
So what are the steps?
Here are 5 gentle, actionable steps to manage the urge when it hits. Step 1, notice the urge. Observe the feeling without immediate judgment. Just acknowledge, I am feeling the urge to buy something right now. Don't fight it, just name it.
Okay, so just notice it.
Step 2, pause for 90 seconds. Urges, like intense waves, they peak and fade. Studies show that the most intense emotional urges last roughly 90 seconds before they begin to subside. Giving yourself a short window, standing up, walking to the kitchen, allows that initial intensity to pass.
Step 3.
Step 3, ask, what am I really feeling right now? Dig past the urge to buy and name the underlying emotion. Stress, exhaustion, sadness, boredom. Naming the emotion separates it from the purchasing solution.
Because a new sweater won't solve boredom.
It won't. Step 4, offer a replacement soothing activity. Instead of shopping, consciously choose an activity that addresses the real emotional need. If you're stressed, take a walk. If you're bored, call a friend. If you're feeling deprived, make a cup of tea and watch a comfort show.
And if the desire is still there after all that?
Step 5, if the desire persists, buy it, protected and guilt-free from the designated fun bucket. This is the crucial final step of the anti-budget. If you went through the psychological steps, waited 90 seconds, addressed the emotion, and the desire is still strong, the system allows you to make the purchase without shame. You already allocated the money for joy.
This gentle, realistic approach ensures you stay compliant with the overall financial structure while honoring the fact that you are a complex, emotional human being seeking comfort. So the system is built, the accounts are separated, the 3 buckets are allocated, and the automations are running. What keeps the whole thing humming smoothly without demanding hours of input? The 10-minute weekly money ritual.
Sustainability over perfection. That is the motto. We ditch the overwhelming monthly accounting session, that deep, stressful dive that takes 2 hours, and replace it with a quick, low-effort check-in, ideally at the same time every week, just 10 minutes.
What's the first minute?
Minute 1, open accounts. Just look at the balances of your 3 buckets. Simply observe the numbers. Do not judge, do not panic, do not start calculating where every penny went. Just take inventory.
Okay, minutes 2 to 4.
Minutes 2 through 4. Adjust buckets. This is the maintenance phase. Check your balances. Did you slightly overspend on flexible essentials? Shift a small, necessary amount from goals or fun to cover it. No guilt, just adjustments. Maybe you had a slow spending week in fun, so you move a small surplus over to goals. It's fluid.
It's maintenance, not emergency surgery. You're trimming the plant, not replanting the whole garden.
Precisely. Minutes 5 and 6. Check upcoming bills. Glance at the next 2 weeks of scheduled automated bills. Ensure the necessary funds are sitting in the essentials account, ready for automation to pull them. This is proactive defense against overdrafts.
Minute 7.
Minute 7. Celebrate one small win. This is often neglected, but it is absolutely vital for long-term motivation. Did you pay a bill on time? Did you stick to your grocery estimate? Did you not panic check your balance midweek?
Did you pause for 90 seconds?
Exactly. Celebrate it no matter how tiny. We need to associate money management with positive feelings.
Okay, minute 8.
Minute 8. Reflect. Ask yourself, how did money feel this week? Stressed, calm, controlled, anxious. This emotional temperature check is more important than the exact numbers. It helps you identify underlying issues before they become crises.
And minute 9.
Minute 9. Set intentions. Based on that reflection, set one simple, clear intention for the next 7 days. I intend to spend more consciously on dining out this week, or I intend to make sure I automate that extra debt payment.
Simple and achievable.
And minute 10. Close everything. Done. Move on with your life. You have protected your finances for the week, the system is maintained, and you only need to revisit it next week.
Let's take a moment now, everyone. Before we wrap up, we invite you to take a deep breath with us. In through your nose, filling your lungs with air. Hold it. And release, letting go of any residual stress or shame you carry about money. If you can, close your eyes or soften your gaze. We want to guide you through imagining the reality of this simple, anti-budget system in your life.
Picture yourself 1 month from now. You've had 2 paychecks run through the automated system. Your bills are already paid automatically, without hassle, pulling from the essentials bucket. Your savings are growing without you even thinking about it, flowing into the gold bucket. You use your fun money, protected and guilt-free. When you check your account balances, you feel a deep, solid sense of calm, not that familiar knot of dread.
Now look ahead 6 months from now. Your fun bucket is established as a safe, joyful space, and the urge to binge spend has significantly decreased because the restriction is gone. You no longer fear checking your bank balance because you know exactly where your money goes and what job it's doing. You feel steady, stable, and firmly in control of your week-to-week finances, effortlessly running the 10-minute ritual.
Finally, look, 1 year from now. Your holdover buffer is fully funded if you have inconsistent income, or your emergency fund has grown significantly. If you had debt, it is shrinking rapidly because of automated, aggressive payments. You look at your finances, and the dominating thought that comes to mind is not panic, but I am safe, I am stable, I am in control. Your financial life is now a source of peace, not anxiety.
Now imagine your future self, the one who built this stability and peace, sending you a message of profound gratitude across the timeline. They are saying, thank you. Thank you for choosing a system that honored your humanity today. Thank you for choosing peace and for building stability for my future. Hold on to that feeling. You deserve that peace. Before we wrap up this comprehensive deep dive, let's crystallize the most important takeaways from this behavioral, anti-budget system.
Truth 1. A real budget should feel supportive, not restrictive. If it feels like a punishment or a diet, it will inevitably fail due to psychological rebellion.
Truth 2.
Truth 2. Simple is exponentially better than complicated. Complexity breeds tracking fatigue and inaction. Radical simplicity ensures sustainability.
Right. Truth 3.
Truth 3. Automation beats human discipline every single time. Stop relying on fallible willpower to execute your plan. Let the machines do the heavy, consistent lifting.
And 4.
Truth 4. Your emotional relationship with money matters more than pure math. Address the feeling, the stress, the boredom, the scarcity before you attempt to address the number.
And the final one.
Truth 5. You can build a budget that works for you, even if you fundamentally hate the rigid, punitive concept of budgeting. You just need a system that recognizes you are human.
Thank you so much for bringing this material forward and giving us the tools to understand why we were failing, and more importantly, how to succeed. The distinction between discipline and automation, and just the sheer psychological power of that protected spending allowance, is truly transformative.
Thank you. It has been an honor to share this system, and I want to reiterate to everyone listening, you do not need to be perfect. You just need a system that supports you exactly where you are today.
And to all of you who joined us for this deep dive, thank you for choosing a kinder, more realistic way to approach your finances. Remember this, your money is a tool designed to support your life, not a continuous test to see if you're good enough. You deserve a life that feels calm, stable, and free. That's all for this deep dive.